Years ago, I read this book that was basically a transcribed interview with world-class violinist Itzhak Perlman. I didn't know who he was then, and to be honest, I still don't really know who he is now, but a quick Google search will reassure you he is certainly an accomplished musician whose advice wouldn't hurt. Now, it really doesn't matter which instruments you play. Practice techniques transcend specific instruments. The amount you practice and how you approach practice can bring about similar results. Allow me to share 3 key elements that I learned from Itzhak Perlman that have completely changed my life and made my practice time the most efficient that it could be. After that, I'm going to apply these ideas to creativity as well. Number 1, choose good bowings. I know, guitars don't use bows, so step 1, start using a bow. I'm kidding. Just like anything in life, don't take it at face value. Look deeper and then come to a conclusion. Perlman goes on to specify that it is extremely important to choose the bowings and fingerings and stick to them at all times when practicing without any change. If you don't change the bowings and the fingerings once you choose the ones that are comfortable for you, you will learn the piece faster, and when you relearn it, it will also be faster. We use our fingers just as a violinist does, pushing down on a string, and the fingers we choose for any lick or run can be more or less efficient. But the takeaway here is muscle memory. So much of practicing is developing muscle memory. If you're using different fingers for the same lick every other time, you're confusing your hand and essentially learning the same lick 2 or more different ways. That's why I always tell my students there may or may not be a more efficient way to play something, but the most important part is being consistent with your approach. We are developing muscle memory. We practice so our fingers naturally go where they should, so we can place more focus on the musicality of our performance when the time comes. So be consistent and committed to the fingerings that you choose. Not to brag, but I've been walking for many years and I only trip occasionally. Even though I might trip and make mistakes, you can't say I'm bad at walking. I got that shit down. It's because I step correctly more often than I misstep. As a musician, whatever you may be working on, if you could play it correctly more often than incorrectly, you got it down. Or at least you're on your way. This comes back to muscle memory and the idea of practicing our mistakes. Whenever I show a student something new, of course they struggle as they try and put it together, and then they finally get it after a few tries. Well, they just played it wrong 5 times and right once. According to their body, the wrong way was right because that feeling is most experienced to them physically. Bring in the rule of 7. This idea changed my life because it truly enforces you to practice correctly. Whatever you're working on, a lick, a scale, a passage of a song, you need to play it 7 times in a row correctly. If you make a mistake the 6th time, you need to start over. I love this because it does 2 things. It enforces playing the part correctly more than incorrectly, and it also lays a structure to practice an idea for a certain number of times. Like I said earlier, most students play something correctly once and stop and say they got it. Have you tried to play it 6 more times after that and not mess up? At the very least, you'll be practicing the part more than you would otherwise. Anyone who's taken private lessons with me has heard me say this multiple times every lesson ever. I say it to myself every day. Slow down. It all comes back to muscle memory. If we're developing muscle memory, speed is not what we're trying to achieve. And the speed of a player isn't accomplished by being fast. I mean, a little, but you can only go so fast without being efficient. Are my fingers and picking hand moving fluidly from one note to the next? Are they unnecessarily too far away from the strings? Why practice slowly? Because then we can actually spot the mistakes and maintain a focus on each detail. This is literally foundational work. If I can't play something slowly without the slightest tendency to do something inefficient, say my finger reaches for the wrong note yet I still kind of correct myself in time, that's not efficient or smooth. Muscle memory is I got it if I don't have to think about it. But remember, not thinking about it is the result. Don't ever put the cart before the horse. You should be thinking a lot before you're not thinking at all. Thomas Edison once said, "I've not failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." I love this because it should completely destroy the pessimistic voice in your head that criticizes every attempt at creativity. Edison also suggested that the first couple of ideas are always the most obvious, so if we want to dig deeper creatively, we need to produce many ideas and suss out the obvious or bad ones. Now with music and art, sure, ideas are subjective, but I like considering the rule of 7 for creativity as a starting point. Or at the very least, if I have 7 ideas, I can confidently say the idea I choose to go with is at least the best out of 7. and it pushes me to produce ideas and think outside the box. So let's take this chord progression: E flat major 7, F minor 7, A flat major 7, A flat minor 7. As a guitar player, what do I play over this? Okay, so the first thing I want to do is just find the chords, right? Just find the chords that I know. So I have E flat major 7 right there, F minor 7 right there, A flat major 7, and A flat minor 7. And when it comes to being creative and just kind of doing something interesting, the first step that I go to is extensions, right? So E flat major 7 or E flat major 9, I get F minor 9, I get A flat 6. And then when it comes to a minor chord like this, we're not going to go into too much detail about why it is, what's going on, but I love this little A flat minor 6, just like that. So we could use these extensions as a starting point just to juice it up a little bit and come up with our own approach to do it. And we could start with a basic finger picking pattern like this. So I'm going to keep it real simple, just plucking each string. Then right there, I could hammer it into it. I'm going to bar across my index finger right there and hammer my pinky down, and then just continue with the same pattern on the A flat 6. Really simple, right? But sometimes simplicity is the best move. So that's one option that we have. Now for a second idea, we could play around with the first one, but just add maybe like little fills or just fill it out a little bit more and come up with something like this. So we start with this E flat major chord by barring it right here so I can hammer into it. Get that move, and I'm going to repeat a similar move on the F minor 9, but I'm going to do my double stop thing, and I want to palm mute that double stop so it sounds just really nice. And then I'm going to bar across the 3rd fret for this A flat 6 chord and just pick it. Move it over to this E flat minor 6, but I'm gonna bar that 3rd fret so I can get that high E string, and now that makes it an E flat major 13. And that is an interesting, very cool chord to bring out that just fits beautifully in this harmonic context. So maybe for a different idea, I could think of something that's a little bit more floaty on top, a little less rhythmic, and a little bit more, again, atmospheric. So I could think of my voicings on the top 4 strings and come up with something like this. So depending on how advanced you are with your chords, you'll know different places to play the same chord, right? So we did E flat major 7 like this, or we did an E flat major 9 like this, but we also have this, which is a beautiful voicing, and you could kind of create a little move and extension like this. And that's our first part, right? We hammer into it, we go right back down, and then playing around with that F minor 9 chord, I can go. And that's just like a little kind of cool move, right? And then I can build into this A flat chord. Now I love this one. This is a beautiful voicing, and basically what it is an A flat major 7 sus 2. Yeah, an A flat major 7 sus 2. I hate that name. It's so long. It's just so and I don't worry about that. Don't really worry about that. Just know the shape and know the sound, right? That's really what we want. Don't worry about the name. And one thing that I love to do with this is you hammer into it. You go. And that's a beautiful move right there. So I got to start with this whole shape down, barring across the 3rd fret, and I build my pinky into it. Hammer and slide. And then to make this a minor chord, I do this funny thing where I'm trying to fret these 2 strings, the G and the B, with that 1 finger. Now to get this minor chord, I gotta do this crazy little thing where I kind of bar it a little bit so I can still hear that high E string. Now as I'm continuing just to go through my head and think of all these things that I could do with the guitar, obviously another one is get funky with it, right? Just get this very rhythmic chicka 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 chicka. And one of the things about funk is to be static harmonically. And what that means is not changing chords, not changing much, just keeping maybe that one note or that one idea and just making it rhythmic, right? So you're not moving chords, you're not moving harmonically, you're keeping it very simple, but creating this cool, funky rhythm, right? That's what we want. So for the first chord, I could start with this E flat major 7, and it comes out of this shape, right? But I'm just gonna do just the top 4 strings. Okay, cool. Now, where can I go from there that doesn't move much? Because I gotta move somewhere to get to that F minor chord, right? I gotta move somewhere, I gotta change some notes around, but I don't wanna change much around. And what I could find is coming out of this F minor 9 chord, there's this nice voicing that's the top 4, just like this. Okay, cool. Now, if I think about this, our notes are A flat, E flat, G, and B flat. Okay, cool. 3, flat 7, 9, and 11. Beautiful. Okay, cool. Now, what if I kept those same notes over the A flat chord? Then that would make that 1, 5, flat 7, and 9. Cool, works great. Now, what if I kept it over the A flat minor chord? Well, there's no 3 in there, so that works too. So in honor of keeping this kind of classic, funky, and being static harmonically, I use the same shape over the next 3 chords. And then I got something like this. So maybe that's just too much for this song. Maybe it's too chaotic, too much going on, right? I don't know. But we could think of a different funky idea that's got less going on, but still in that mindset of static, you know, like not a lot of movement, just a repetitive rhythmic thing, all right? So that's where I bring in my double stops again and think of like a funky approach. The great thing is when we stay in the key signature, we could just play around the pentatonics in a funky manner and it's gonna sound good over all the chords for the most part. So I have this double stop line like this. Now the biggest harmonic change is that last chord, which takes us a little bit outside of the key signature. So I'm going to change it up, and that even gives it like a good cadence, right? To repeat something 3 times, and then the 4th time, just a little change. So that's going to feel good too, and I can do something like this to highlight that minor chord. All right, let's keep searching around. We got 2 more to go. Now, whenever I'm thinking of ideas, there's always those 2 bass points, like the voicing or where I'm playing the chord and how I'm playing it, right? So far we played it around here a lot. Now, where's another place that I could find at least like an E flat major 7? We could do it right here. That's a beautiful voicing. And I could finger pick it and just have a really steady ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba move. You know, something simple, something rhythmic. That's what we're doing. We're creating a rhythmic part. And we could play it like this. There's my E flat major 7. There's my F minor 9. And this voicing, if we're familiar with our chords, it's the same thing as an A flat major 7. Okay, cool. Now how do I make that minor? Well, as I learn about music theory and all this and know all the notes of every one of these chords, I know that this note right here is my major 3rd in A flat. So all I gotta do is flat that to make it a minor chord. And I just take that away and go like this. And then I get that chord right there that fits perfectly, and we sound something like this. All right, so now maybe as options, maybe that's too much. Maybe that's too busy, there's too much happening right there. So I could take the same idea, open it up, let it breathe a little bit more, and let's just try a little bit different chords like this. I'll try an E flat major 7 chord like this. Nice and simple, just let it ring. I'll try an F minor 9 chord like this. Again, open, just letting it ring. A flat 6, and that A flat minor 7. Tabs for this is available at patreon.com/nastysoul, along with a lot of dope courses for funk guitar, neo soul rhythm guitar, soloing, all that jazz. So definitely check it out. Your support helps keep this channel alive. I appreciate it so much. Keep jamming and stay nasty.